She jiggled the doorknob like she owned the place. Then she pulled out a shiny silver key and tried to walk into my home. When it didn't work, she slammed her hand on the door and yelled, "Open up. I'm your HOA president. I have access." I stood still inside, watching her through the peephole. My wife whispered, "Don't open it, not after last time." Karen banged again, this time harder. "I know you're in there. This is an emergency. I have authority." She pulled out her phone. "I'm calling 911. You're refusing access to a community official. You could be hiding something illegal in there." Her voice was loud enough that my 10-year-old son, Ayan, came downstairs clutching his stuffed dinosaur. "Why is that lady screaming again, Dad?" I told him to stay calm and go back upstairs, but he didn't. He stood right behind me when the sirens came. 2 squad cars, lights flashing, guns holstered but hands twitching. Karen ran straight to them like she'd just caught a terrorist. "There!" She pointed at my door. He locked me out. "I'm the HOA president. I have a master key." He changed the locks on purpose. "That's a felony." The younger officer looked confused. "Ma'am, that's not a crime." She snapped, "Oh, really?" "He's defying HOA regulations. That home belongs to our community, and I have jurisdiction." The other officer was quiet. He was looking at the house, at the flagpole in my front yard, at the old faded Marine Corps sticker still stuck on my mailbox. Then something strange happened. Before either cop could step forward, one of their radios crackled. "Unit 12, do not escalate. Homeowner's son is on dispatch line. He's requesting direct communication." Karen froze. The cops looked at each other. "Say again." The radio repeated, louder this time. "This is Central. Be advised. Homeowner's son is calling from internal sheriff's emergency line. Verified access code confirmed. Do not intervene until supervisor arrives." Karen's jaw fell open. "What? What does that mean?" I opened the door just a little, and I said calm as ever, "It means you just called the cops to the wrong house." She stepped back like I slapped her. "You can't scare me. You people think you can do anything. But this is my neighborhood. I was told you're renters. Your names aren't even on the community registry." I stared at her, dead silent. Behind me, Ayan was still on the line. And in less than 60 seconds, everything was about to change. Karen started pacing in my front yard like a rabid dog that lost its leash. "This is harassment. I'm the president of this HOA. He's a threat to our community. I've got emails, complaints, proof." The officers weren't listening anymore. One of them stepped aside, hand to his earpiece, clearly receiving instructions. The other was watching me, but not in a hostile way. He looked confused. Curious, even. Karen wasn't done. "Do you know what kind of people they let in now?" He cut his grass at 7 p.m. "There are regulations." I stayed quiet, still holding the door open just enough. My son's voice echoed faintly on the radio again. "Dispatch, has Supervisor Reyes confirmed ETA?" "ETA 2 minutes," the voice replied. Karen's face twisted. "Who the hell is Reyes? Why is everyone ignoring me?" I called 911. "I'm the victim here." That's when a black SUV rolled up fast. No lights, no sirens. Just authority. The moment the door opened, Karen's skin turned pale. Out stepped a tall woman in full uniform, sheriff supervisor badge shining, gun holstered, clipboard in hand. "Supervisor Reyes." She didn't even glance at Karen. Instead, she walked straight up my front steps and hugged Ayan. Karen stuttered. What is this?" I finally stepped outside fully, calm, quiet. "Ayan isn't just my son," I said slowly. "He's also the godson of the county sheriff. He's been shadowing dispatch since spring." Karen blinked hard, like trying to force the truth away. No. He's a child. Kids can't be on dispatch lines." Supervisor Reyes turned around sharply. "Not only can he, when under direct supervision, he did tonight. He logged everything, including your forced entry attempt, your false 911 report, and your claim of having a master key to private property." Karen backed up. "This is a misunderstanding. I was just doing my job. I'm the president." Reyes stepped forward, calm but lethal. "Ma'am, being an HOA president doesn't give you legal access to someone else's home. That's called criminal trespassing. You don't have the right to demand keys, enter property, or lie to emergency services." Karen tried to laugh. A pathetic sound. "You people are blowing this out of proportion. I've lived here 14 years. I've got connections. Great, I said. So do I. Supervisor Reyes pulled out a paper. This is a formal notice. Effective immediately. Your HOA privileges are under investigation. And if we find your master key was made without board approval, that's a felony. Karen's whole face dropped. That's when Ayan leaned against the doorframe and said the first viral line of the night, voice soft but clear. Next time you try to break in, maybe call your own house first. The entire street was watching by now. Phones recording, neighbors whispering. And Karen? Karen realized she wasn't in charge anymore. Karen stumbled backward, her eyes darting toward the phones aimed at her from every angle. Some neighbors were smirking. Others looked disgusted. A few just shook their heads like they'd seen this show one too many times. She clutched her little clipboard like it was a shield. You're all making a mistake. I've served this community for over a decade. I've protected it. Supervisor Reyes didn't even blink. From what? Law-abiding families in their own homes? Karen tried to fight back tears now. The fake kind. The kind people use when they realize their power's slipping, but they still think drama might save them. Please, she said, voice shaking. This man, he's not even the owner. I checked. His name isn't on the HOA registry. I walked down the steps, each step deliberate. My name doesn't need to be on your registry, I said slowly, because I'm not in your HOA. This house was grandfathered out. It's private deeded land. That key you tried? It never belonged here. Karen's head snapped up. Liar, she hissed. That's impossible. Every property here is bound to HOA. I reached into my back pocket and pulled out the file I kept ready just for her. Not mine. This lot predates the subdivision. The original owner refused to sign HOA inclusion. County records show that clearly. But you never checked real documents, did you? She stared at the papers like they were written in another language. Supervisor Reyes scanned the file, then gave a small nod. Confirmed. Lot 14A independently zoned. No HOA authority. And then came the second real twist. I leaned in just a bit and whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. Also, this home was never rented. I bought it in cash, under a trust. The owner's name on record? I turned and looked directly at the camera one neighbor was holding. It's mine. Judge Rainer Uzoma, retired Federal Circuit Court, sworn in 1999, stepped down 2023. Karen's soul left her body right there on the lawn. The color drained. Her knees bent slightly like she might collapse. A gasp rippled through the street, because suddenly the man she was trying to evict, the one she called police on, the one she accused of not belonging, was a retired federal judge. The same judge who'd probably ruled over cases tougher than Karen's entire personality. She whispered, No, that's not. You lied to me. You never told anyone. Didn't have to, I said. I came here to retire. You came here to start a war. And the way her eyes darted around, trying to find one person, anyone who'd take her side, that silence said everything. Karen's breathing got shallow like the truth was choking her. She glanced at the officers, but now they weren't even looking at her. One of them was talking to dispatch, confirming charges. The other was casually standing with crossed arms, eyes fixed on Karen like she was a bad rerun on a slow day. Supervisor Reyes took a step closer, reading from her clipboard. Karen Elizabeth Grant. Multiple complaints from residents. 3 verified reports of unauthorized entry attempts. 2 recorded false 911 calls within 6 months. And now this. Karen snapped. You're making me look like a criminal. You did that yourself, Reyes replied deadpan. I didn't know he was a judge. I was just doing my job. No, I said. You were doing what you always do, pretending to be in control of something you never had control over. I turned and looked at the crowd gathering near the edge of the sidewalk. Dozens of faces now. Some familiar, most not, and yet nearly all of them were nodding silently. One man even clapped once before stopping himself. Karen's voice got desperate. I can explain everything. This whole community is falling apart. I was the only one holding it together. I had to do something. A woman in a blue robe from across the street called out. Karen, you fined me for having pumpkins on my porch in October. You told my son to remove his skateboard ramp because it was gang behavior. Another added, you tried to evict my elderly mom for putting up Christmas lights early. Karen spun around, eyes wild. This is a setup. You people never respected me. I tried to bring order. Reyes shook her head. What you brought was fear, bullying, control. That's not order. That's abuse of power. That's when the officer on the radio nodded and approached. Supervisor, he said, we've got confirmation. HOA never authorized her to create or distribute master keys. Locksmith confirmed she forged access copies. That's a felony. Karen's mouth fell open. She turned to run, but 2 steps in, she tripped. Flat on her face. The silence broke with laughter. Not cruel, just released, like the neighborhood had been holding its breath for years. And it finally exhaled. She lay there for a moment before slowly sitting up, dazed. That's when my son stepped down onto the grass holding a small black box. A recording device. A yawn pressed play, and from it came Karen's voice from earlier that week, clear as day. If they won't obey, I'll force them out. I don't care how. I have keys to every house in this place. One way or another, they'll learn who runs this community. Karen looked up at us like she'd just heard her own ghost. Then she whispered, I didn't know that was recording. I smiled. That's the thing about power, Karen. When you abuse it, someone is always watching. Karen sat on the grass, frozen. Her perfect suburban mask had cracked wide open. The neighbors she once threatened, fined, and lectured now stood around her, not afraid, not silent, but free. Supervisor Reyes walked over slowly, lowered herself to eye level and said calmly, You're officially being detained for further questioning. Regarding unauthorized key duplication, false emergency reports, and possible criminal trespass. Karen's lips trembled. No, you can't do this. This is my neighborhood. I built this place. I protected these people. Reyes raised an eyebrow. No, you controlled them. There's a difference. As the officer cuffed her hands, Karen whimpered. You're all making a huge mistake. You'll regret this. But nobody looked sorry. As they lifted her to her feet, one man from the crowd, Mr. Thompson, the quiet Vietnam vet who rarely spoke, tipped his cap toward me and muttered, Been waiting 5 years for that witch to trip on her own ego. Another neighbor shouted, Can we finally get rid of those petty fines for watering? Our lawns on the wrong day? Laughter rippled through the crowd. Even the officers chuckled quietly. Karen was escorted to the cruiser, still trying to plead her case, but her voice was swallowed by the sound of something more powerful. Relief. I turned toward Ayan, who stood next to me watching everything. He looked up and asked, Is she going to jail? Maybe, I said. But what matters is she's not in charge anymore. That's when a young woman stepped forward from the crowd, one of the new homeowners. Karen had harassed for months. She looked nervous. I just wanted to say thank you, she said. You standing up to her? That gave the rest of us courage. We didn't know who you were, but we knew you were different. I nodded, then quietly said, I didn't come here to fight anyone. I came here to live in peace. But when peace is threatened, sometimes you have to stand your ground. Another voice added, Wait, is it true you're really a judge? I gave a half smile. These days I just try to be a decent neighbor. Yeah, someone laughed. A neighbor with a direct line to the sheriff's office. Hey, I said, grinning. That was my son. Ayan smiled proudly, holding up his little recorder like it was a trophy. That's when someone in the back shouted the next viral quote. Simple, sharp and true. Karen brought keys. He brought truth. And just like that, a new kind of silence settled over the block. Not fear. Respect. The cruiser door shut with a heavy clunk, sealing Karen inside. She sat there behind the window, wild-eyed, mumbling to herself like she still had a courtroom to win. But there were no judges here, no clipboards, no fake fines. Just neighbors she'd ruled over like a petty queen, all watching her fall from her plastic throne. One by one, people began stepping forward, not toward her but toward each other. The elderly man Karen, once threatened over a garden gnome, shook hands with the new couple she tried to fine for having solar panels. Parents who used to rush their kids inside when Karen walked by were now laughing softly. Relaxed for the first time in years. It was like someone had lifted a curtain, and behind it was a real community, waiting to exist. Ayan came up beside me again. Dad, is she gonna come back? I looked at him for a second, then gently placed a hand on his shoulder. She might try. People like her don't go down easy. But next time? I pointed toward the crowd. She'll be outnumbered. That's when Supervisor Reyes approached, her expression softer now. She glanced at Ayan and smiled. You've got a smart kid. Calm under pressure. Quick thinking. Ayan lit up. Can I come back to dispatch sometime? She laughed. With permission? Absolutely. She handed me a small slip of paper. This is my direct number. If she or anyone gives you trouble again, you don't call 911, you call me. I nodded. Appreciated. Then Reyes leaned in slightly and said under her breath, We've had our eye on her for a while. Your footage, your son's call, sealed it. We shook hands. As the black SUV pulled away behind the cruiser, one of the neighbors came forward with a large paper bag. We, got these cupcakes for the block BBQ Karen tried to cancel last week. You think it's still on? I looked around, then said, Only if we move it to my front yard. Cheers erupted. And in that moment it became clear. This wasn't just about Karen. It was about everyone who'd ever been silenced by fake authority, standing up at the exact same time, and finding out they were stronger together. That evening the sun dipped low over the neighborhood, casting long shadows across the trimmed lawns and now unlocked gates. For the first time in years, no one was looking over their shoulder. No one worried about a fine taped to their door. The clipboard queen was gone. The BBQ kicked off just after sunset. Kids ran barefoot in the grass. Neighbors I'd never seen speak more than a few words were now laughing like old friends. Someone brought a speaker. Someone else fired up a grill. Even the guy Karen once fined for parking. Crooked brought lemonade. For everyone, extra sweet. I sat on the porch with Ayan beside me, a paper plate full of cupcakes in his lap. He watched the people, the lights, the freedom, then leaned into me and asked, Did we win? I thought for a moment. No, I said. Everyone did. Ayan smiled and took another bite of cupcake. Just then, Mrs. Fernandez from 3 houses down came over. You know, she said, handing me a soda. Karen used to say this community was her kingdom. I nodded. She ruled it like a tyrant. She laughed. Well, now it's finally a neighborhood again. Someone across the street raised a red, white, and blue flag on a pole Karen once tried to ban. The whole party paused and watched it rise into the night sky. No anthem, no speech, just quiet respect. Because this wasn't about politics or power. It was about a simple truth. You don't have to wear a uniform to stand for justice, and you don't need permission to defend your home. As the flag reached the top and caught the wind, I looked around at the smiling faces, the music, the peace, and I knew Karen was never the story. We were the end. Please subscribe my YouTube channel for more stories.